Hey everyone, this is Veil Grimace here to bring you a review for Dark Souls. 2014 was the first time I ever played Dark Souls. I played Dark Souls 2 first, then quit shortly after because of the difficulty. After watching PewDiePie play it, I decided to go back to the roots of Souls with Dark Souls on PS3. I beat it way back then, and now, after returning to it 12 years later in 2026, I remembered why this game was such a culture shift for gaming and game design, while setting the standard for Souls like with this title. I was always a huge fan of Dark Souls, and I will never stop loving this intricate, enigmatic world Miyazaki created here. Dark Souls was a game created back in 2011 after Demon's Souls. Back then, this game was obscure to me. I saw videos of it and never got into it because of the stripped down look it had at first glance. How wrong I was when I finally played it back in 2014, and now in 2026, my impressions has changed forever. Miyazaki 4 is a masterpiece that changed the culture of gaming, introducing a game that never spoon-fed you information. Only upon self-discovery does the world open itself to you the deeper you go. If I let my Dark Souls 2 impression stop me from diving deeper, I would never have gotten why people learned to love this game so much. Dark Souls changed game design, creating difficulty truly tailored for its world and enemy encounter from Blighttown to Anima and the Catacombs. Your journey is how hard you make it, teaching you through death which places are more difficult than others. How upon death, you gain new experience and knowledge that will take you further on the next try. The philosophy behind Dark Souls is key game design that allows the player to experience the world without having to be told everything right in your face. You are the chosen undead, and Miyazaki leaves it to you how you learn through its elaborate world. As the chosen undead, you are a prisoner in the undead asylum. Then you are taken to Lordran, a kingdom built upon the back of Gwyn and all the souls born from the fire. The Age of Fire came with many promises and prosperity, but as all great kingdoms do, they inevitably fall to ruin, leaving behind the frail shapes and remnants of humanity that cling to the little sanity they have left. After the great war with the Everlasting Dragon, nothing was the same in the Age of Fire as it fell apart. The Chosen Undead becomes anointed to link the flames and rewrite the sins of Gwyn. When Miyazaki designed Dark Souls, the story isn't told to you beyond an opening cinematic. Only a few item descriptions and talking to NPCs give hints of the world and story told in an unconventionally delivered way. If you just ran through the world, killing one boss after another, you will definitely miss things if you don't read deeper into it. Vadi Vidya became my source to understand the world more intimately. Understanding my actions after linking the flames or defeating Quelaag and realizing the consequences of my actions. This is where it can be hit or miss. The story can be easily missable, so on first impression, it may not seem in depth. It's only after you defeat the game, then you begin to look deeper, as a sense of longing can be felt after completion, which may deter people feeling it could be too simple or convoluted. Even on my initial playthrough, I wondered what it all meant. If many people or I didn't have a channel like Vadi Vidya to tell us the intricate lore, would it still hold up? I would say yes, because the mystery is what would drive some people to look deeper. The item descriptions tell you more about the world, and there are cutscenes at key moments to give you more information without spilling all the beans at once. The philosophy of Dark Souls' story was intentional to make the player feel the world around them with visual storytelling and personal discovery, allowing the player to be immersed in the world itself. Never once breaks that to deliver a cutscene to tell you all of its ins and outs of the story. Combat in Dark Souls is the most methodically crafted game mechanic. After playing Lies of P and thinking that game had long animations, then finally revisiting Dark Souls after 12 years, I was shocked by how slow everything felt. Healing was slow, and getting up after getting knocked down takes forever. There's a lot about the movement that can feel dated, especially since in this game, when you lock onto an enemy, you can't run to the right or left to outmaneuver most attacks, making the lock-on kind of detrimental if you rely solely on it. Dark Souls was FromSoftware's second attempt at the Souls-like formula, learning from Demon's Souls. After playing faster games like Elden Ring or Lies of P, I almost felt spoiled with how much more freedom the combat and movement had in those games. combat is still solid. After a while, the game became second nature, and I dominated when they got the Black Knight sword with a rare 20% drop chance in the starting area. It was frustrating, then it became an exercise in persistence and never giving up, which is how you go hollow. By turning off the game and never trying to make it to the next boss, you become just another hollow and not the chosen undead. In 2026, the combat still feels dated. There are things in the world that aren't very polished, and you notice this even in a remaster released in 2018. There is a very well-known glitch called the soul duplication and item duplication glitch, which can break the game depending on how you abuse the system. I did use these glitches in my playthrough, only so I had enough upgrade material allowed me to experiment with different weapons with high stat requirements. But as a game that was created in 2011, does dated gameplay get a pass for its age? In my opinion, I say no. Even if the game was created in 2011, it doesn't get a slap on the wrist for limiting game mechanics like being unable to run sideways while locked onto an enemy. That restricts movement versus freedom with it, which makes going for openings frustrating versus challenging. The NPCs are a great addition to the world. They add someone to talk to and give you insight into what happened while you were locked away. They are well voice acted and can assist you along your journey, while also add to the environment of Lordran. Now here is my biggest issue with Dark Souls. There are questlines in Dark Souls for NPCs like Sigmir of Katarina. In order to complete his questline, you have to follow an extremely methodical line of trajectory to complete his quest. On a blind playthrough, it's difficult to complete his questline without outside help, ruining the experience of a blind playthrough. This is where I think Dark Souls is hindered the most. Dark Souls is a game best experienced blind, unlike me who has played this game before. To experience the world with fresh eyes is how this game is meant to be explored. But if you have to look outside the game to understand where exactly you have to go along Sigmir's quest, I think that in itself is poorly designed, especially if you want to approach the whole thing blind without outside help. I understand Miyazaki designed it this way for the journey to feel spontaneous, but the game itself, especially after getting a Lord Vessel, your path becomes too sporadic to be able to follow dedicated quest lines that you have to follow specific paths in order to complete. So you will miss Sigmir's quest and many other quest lines on the first playthrough without looking up a guide. Relying heavily on outside information to complete a quest line weakens the feeling of discovery the game is built around. Because these characters appear in places you wouldn't think of going a second time or off the main path, away from trying to gain the 4 Lord Souls later in the game. For me, it feels unpolished in this area, especially if you're going in on the initial first playthrough blind, because you will get lost, and you will most likely miss these questlines if you decide never to look up a guide. Better hints would fit Dark Souls' design, making discovery more rewarding. The bosses in this game are fantastic for its world. Most of the designs, besides gimmick fights like Beta Chaos, Gwendolyn, and Needle, are great outside of those three. Dark Souls and Souls-likes in general have the best boss experiences when it's you versus one boss. When it's multiple bosses, I don't think the game gets better in newer FromSoft titles that do dual fights. But with Orstein and Smough, the arena is best designed for this kind of fight. Needle's arena allows you to kite enemies, but it takes away from a more impactful boss fight when having to deal with the skeletons versus just Needle. Beta Chaos feels like a gimmick, with wide sweeping attacks that can knock you into holes in the crumbling arena, making it more unfair than challenging. And Gwendolyn goes against FromSoftware's philosophy by making a boss you don't learn from through combat. You just run him down until Gwendolyn is dead, making the fight not feel rewarding. The majority of the boss fights are fun, but those three hinder the game in certain ways. The lore behind them makes sense, but lore doesn't equate to game design. I don't think of lore while engaging boss mechanics. Bosses like the Capra Demon have an extremely small boss arena for its movement. The Gaping Dragon is extremely easy despite how intimidating he looks on presentation. Ceaseless Discharge can be easily cheesed if you know how to work him towards the cliff. Pinwheel can't even be called a boss, but the design of them was meant to fit the lore. Miyazaki also created them with specific movesets and design choices, designing Ceaseless Discharge to jump towards the ledge if you got close to the gate, making it easier to take care of him if you wanted to. It makes sense for the world, but from a game design perspective, it loses tension, something the Souls games thrive on, making it less rewarding to fight, not barely surviving the Beta Chaos or having to outmaneuver through Needle's annoying skeletons. In Dark Souls, souls are your experience points and currency, making them a valuable resource inside the game when buying valuable items like Titanite shards that upgrade your weapons and armor, or consumables like repair powder that repair your weapon, or purple moss that nullifies poison. And if you die while holding these souls, you drop them where you died and have to return right where you died. If you die along the way, you lose all your souls, making the run through areas have high tension to avoid dying. It's a great system that became a staple core mechanic for Soul games way after this game. Not many Soul-likes are made without this mechanic, which gives a playthrough more tension or stress. The weapons and armor are the highlight of this game. Back when I was first playing this game, I wanted to find all the armor and weapons inside. The amount of weapons is immense and also have intricate designs. You can also give certain blacksmiths certain embers or flames to construct certain weapons. And after that certain weapon is forged high enough, you can combine it with a boss soul and get an entirely new boss weapon. Like Quaylock's Fire Sword that can be forged if you have a plus 10 cursed sword type weapon, which makes boss souls valuable if you don't want to pop them for additional souls. The armor is great and actually negates damage depending on how much you level it up, which makes it more impactful than Elden Ring. It increases your chance to survive by giving you more tools. Faster Souls truly makes its name when dripping in Silver Knight, Black Knight, or Artorias' Knight armor. There are rings you can wear to give you certain buffs, like being able to regenerate stamina faster or being able to walk in water with the rusted ring. You also have charcoal pine resin, gold pine resin, and rotten pine resin, adding status effects to your weapons that can apply lightning, poison, and fire. Only certain weapons can, though, not special weapons like the Black Knight sword. The DLC called Artorias of the Abyss, which comes with the remaster, is a great addition to Dark Souls. It's a story that takes place 300 years in the past in the ancient land of Ulasil. You are tasked with rescuing Princess Dust from the Abyss. Along your journey through Ulasil, you discover the great knight Artorias and what wickedness befell him, while moving deeper into the same abyss that corrupted Artorias. This DLC actually improves on many aspects that Dark Souls itself suffers from. It is short and only has 4 main bosses, but still doesn't feel like a gimmick between any of those 4 bosses, which are Sanctuary Garden, Knight Artorias, Black Dragon Calamine, and Manus, Father of the Abyss. All bosses that are well crafted and never feel redundant. They each felt challenging, and the story was concise and easy to complete within a short period of time. It never dragged on, but instead made your actions more impactful, especially when your actions carry over into the future, where you meet Sif again, where he recognizes you, and then Miyazaki does one of the cruelest things I've ever seen, which forces you to kill Sif to walk the abyss. Dark Souls has great things about its design. FromSoftware, with Miyazaki behind the paintbrush, created an amazing world. Miyazaki had great vision and influenced game design for years to come. Making bosses in games feel like actual bosses again. In a time when bosses felt super repetitive, formulaic, and downright disappointing. It made games challenging and never handheld you with in-your-face tutorials and cluttered UI, Ubisoft, making the game immersive and beautiful to witness in the intricate world design that flows into itself. The only thing in this game that holds it back without the rose-tinted glasses is its dated movement, poor questline design, and bad boss mechanics like the Bed of Chaos. This game shifted the culture and held games to this standard for years to come. It left its mark, and the final song to this game will leave you with a lasting impression. Lordran in Dark Souls is a deep world, and you can lose yourself in the grand scheme if you're not busy getting frustrated with constantly dying in the beginning. Dark Souls encourages bravery and the will to push on, even when it feels impossible, when the task seems insurmountable and oppressive, especially true when you get to places like Tomb of the Giants. Dark Souls will always stay with me, and that's why in my final score, I'm giving Dark Souls itself a high 8 out of 10 Grass Crest Shields. The 8 is deserving for its dated movement, questlines, and weak boss design, especially in the late game when you can parry Gwyn extremely easily. The DLC Artorias of the Abyss gets a 9 out of 10 exceeding great swords. Reason being is the world building and design of Ulasil from start to finish, and how much better the boss design is in the DLC versus the main game. I will always love Dark Souls, and I'll always be just as critical of design elements that show its age. If you love this game to death and disagree, that's fair as my rating. Thank you for hearing me ramble, and thank you for clicking on my video. Like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye!